Welcome to day 97 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of June 2002, which was Minority Report.
Because Fallon told us not to look up anything about this previously, so when I heard Minority Report, I was like, okay, sounds like a crime thing, but I thought it would be going a completely different direction.
I mean, talking about, minorities?
Yeah, like minorities.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah, so that's what I went into this thinking. I was like, okay, it's gonna be one of those nitty-gritty things with, that kind of thing, like LA Confidential or something, but then it turned out to be this really futuristic thing. When you go into it and, the first 10 minutes of the movie, you're just like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah, and there were a couple of points where I was just like, why do some points look right now, but then they have, flying, weird police vehicles, and then they have cars that can go, up and down, building sides and stuff, and I was like, okay. It's an interesting juxtaposition.
It's not like, it's not like, I can't speak. It's not like every place that's around now looks like it was, made 10 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
So.
That's true, yeah.
If anything, though, actually, because the whole Minority Report thing, what that actually is it important?
No. I don't know why they called it that then.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, this is based off of a story, but still, it seems like, again, for what the story is, maybe it's written differently in the book, or I think it's a short story, whatever. It's it's there, in the movie, but it seems like it's going to be important, but then it's not.
It's just why would you make it... Why would you choose that as the name as opposed to
precog or pre-crime or something like that?
Yeah, because going into it, people find we have no idea what it's actually about.
I think should we do for this one? We should have a spoiler section for this.
Probably.
I think that's
fair because that's the reveal was kind of not something that you might expect.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the whole point of the movie is basically what's actually going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for now, assume no major spoilers until we say so.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides the super minor thing about the name is kind of random, besides.
Oh, wait. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say besides that, I didn't really know anything about this movie either. I did when I was actually when I was looking at Wikipedia just to get the movie poster for the image, I ended up glancing at the first paragraph and I saw something about precognition or whatever, and I was like, okay, whatever. So that's all I knew. I didn't even know what the movie actually the plot was or anything like that. So I knew it was some sort of science fiction-y kind of thing, but again, I didn't know really any specifics at all. So I didn't know the plot. The surprises worked, I guess, to say. Because this is one of those plots where it is complicated, but again, that's the point, right? And
it's not too complicated where you can't follow what is going on. Because we've had movies where we completely lose the plot and we're just like, what the heck is going on? Who are these people?
Yeah.
No, you can actually follow the plot and you can understand what is going on when and everything.
Yeah,
and you can keep track of the important people, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because a lot of movies, especially actually movies kind of like this, a lot of the characters seem to blend together.
They all look the same somehow. But in this movie, you can tell who's who, because I guess there are a lot of age differences, and there's one guy with facial hair and one guy, and Tom Cruise doesn't have facial hair, so that's helpful. And then, I mean, there's obviously one dude who's extremely old.
Yeah.
So he's pretty easy to pick out, and then there's
the girl.
I will appreciate the fact that Tom Cruise is married. Well, he was separated from his wife, but him getting his wife back was not any major plot point at all.
That is true.
She comes in to help later on, but her role is minor, but it's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that.
And again, she's
and
not.
that he
She's not.
didn't. Oh,
Well, I was just saying she's not like the focus anyway. So it's not one of those situations where it's like, oh, here's this character who is important, and then you're like, but well, she's not. You're just like saying she is, right? If anything, it's like an
Yeah.
opposite, where it's like she's not really important overall, but she ends up still helping considerably at certain points. So
Yeah.
it feels more natural that way.
Yeah, I liked her.
I was just going to say that, I was going to say 2 points. One was to go off of the current point that they also didn't try to pair Tom Cruise up with Agatha either.
Oh yeah.
And then the other thing was going off of what Mayan said in the beginning, where some parts of it look like how it does now, and then other parts look really futuristic. While that was there, I don't think, because there are a lot of other movies where they go over the top with making things look really futuristic, or they'll go over the top with like the technology and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But here it actually, well, it may be like a mental note. It doesn't like affect how you view the film, as opposed to like all the other films where you're just like, as soon as you see that, you're just like, oh God, I'm watching a movie.
Yeah, like it wasn't bad. It was just a little bit funny at points.
Yeah.
If anything, I actually kind of I like the future kind of world they have, because it does feel like a
Yeah.
fairly realistic one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
I
one of
like
those things
what
where it's
they
like, oh,
did.
in 30 years everything is different. It's like, well, no, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting how that works. If anything, it actually kind of reminds me of this whole thing, actually, not just the technology, but also like just kind of the style of the story. Reminds me of Black Mirror. Because so the episodes, there's kind of at different chronologies. There's ones that are like basically modern, but there's others that are, decent number of decades in the future. So
Like assume time has passed.
yeah,
Almost.
so it definitely felt like one of those like kind of later Black Mirror episodes in terms of again the environment, and then also the whole kind of technological societal implication of everything, because the basis, and this is the basis of the movie, so it's not a spoiler, they say this very early, is that there's these three people who can they basically get visions of the future when someone is murdered. And so the idea is that I guess it's not technically the police, but anyway, they're basically the police. They harness those visions to basically catch people before they murder someone. And so one of the whole interesting things about that is like, they haven't actually murdered anyone, so are they guilty? And there's a whole kind of aspect of like, if you know your future, can you actually change it? And like stuff like that, right? And that kind of theming is something I feel like Black Mirror would do. And I think, again, that's a really interesting... How they handle it is really interesting, because they don't really answer it. Like, no matter which way you look at it, there's no definitive yes or no. So it's really interesting kind of how that's handled. And it also, like, what I also think is kind of, well, that's kind of a spoiler, I'll say that for later. But yeah, I thought the plot was really interesting. The characters were good. I don't think they were, I don't know if I'd say anyone was great, but I did think they were all at least good. So that was something. But yeah, I don't know, personally, it was mainly the story for me. I got sucked into this story, and I thought what was happening was really interesting, and just kind of how it all worked. So I don't know. I personally, there are a few moments that are kind of gross.
A few moments though.
I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
not that many.
It wasn't as like bad as like Hannibal.
Well, nowhere
Really?
near is that.
Anything can beat that. But the reason I emphasize that is that while they're not very, there's a very low number of them, the moments that do come up are quite graphic.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, you might.
they didn't.
I mean-
I don't think they explicitly showed like the most graphic thing. It's very heavily like about to be
Implied.
shown, and then there is a scene very beginning that's really brief, that's kind of gross, and there is this scene like, I don't know, 3/4 through that you could see as gross, but honestly I found it funny. So I don't know. Basically, if you think like eyeballs in a plastic bag are gross, I don't know.
Then it's pretty gross.
Yeah, but at the same time, they also like start rolling around, and it's like, what the fuck? It's just weird. I don't know. I found it funny because I'm like, I don't think eyeballs would fall and then start rolling around like balls. It looks so
Would they
weird.
bounce? I don't know.
They didn't bounce, but they just like, I feel like if you dropped an eye on the ground, it would just kind of splat. So I don't know.
Yeah, because they're mainly water, right?
Well, there's some
Or-
kind of the main part is like some sort of like jelly inside stuff. I
Like-
don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't dropped an eyeball on the floor, but so there's that. I don't know. But yeah, this is a movie that again I'd heard a lot of good stuff about, and I just from the super basic premise that I had looked up, I was interested in seeing it. I'm glad I saw it. I liked it quite a lot. It definitely makes you think, especially again, kind of the whole, you know, the changing
The
the
whole
future,
morality
the morality, and
aspect.
also
Yeah.
the not the morality and what's the thing, the self-determination aspect of it,
Kind of like fate and free
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
I guess.
and then also kind of they didn't get this into this that much, but it was kind of a surface thing where it's like it's an allegory for like how the American prison system is like emphasized on like punishment instead of retribution.
Oh,
Yeah.
like punishment versus rehabilitation.
Yeah, rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And, like what other places usually emphasize to do instead.
Because the whole thing is like, oh, you were going to kill someone, so therefore we'll literally just like stick you in a hole for life.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, so it's that was kind of like a background element, but it was there, and it was interesting how that works out. Because again, that's the whole thing where it's, you know, and of course the whole thing is that these the precogs who can see the murders, well, that's what they do. They see murders, and so it's like, well, you know, would I murder
Like,
someone?
can you imagine how traumatizing that
Yeah,
would be?
Well, yeah, so there's the traumatizing element for them, but there's also, think about like the actual person, where if someone, like, you know, think of it in your own situation where it's like, when is a situation where you would choose to murder someone, right? And so that's kind of another thing that pops up, and it's because it's one of those things where, like, you know, you think, oh, I'd never do that, right? And you know, maybe you wouldn't, but it's like, you know, it's just, it makes you think kind of really like exactly what kind of situation could arise. And I mean, hopefully that will never happen to anybody, but you know,
Yeah, hopefully not.
yeah, but it's something, I don't know. I don't know.
It
But I
works,
personally
um,
did really like it. Oh, another thing that I want to add. Not just the sorry, Tara. But not just the technology and like that aspect, but I think just in terms of like, so that plus also like, just like the cinematography, like this movie looks really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though some of the CGI is like a little bit noticeable, it's still like in terms of like a visual scope or whatever, it's really impressive looking, and it's really visually interesting.
It hasn't
Mhm.
dated.
No.
So-
No, it still looks really good today.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit more of a stylistic
60.
thing than like a realistic thing, but you know,
Yeah.
if it's kind of the whole thing where it's like, you know, it's with video games, like, oh, we went for super realistic graphics and we were praised for it, and it's like, yeah, you were in 2007, now it looks stupid, you know what I mean? So where instead, if you kind of have your own little style on it, it lasts longer, it's more memorable
Yeah.
down the line.
Yeah.
That's something. Anyway, sorry for interrupting you earlier. Go ahead, Tara.
Oh, I was going to say that it is a really good film, and then what was my point? Oh yeah, there were some like kind of weird scenes, like the person that was taking care of the precogs was kind of
Yeah, he was a little bit creepy.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not
really
sure what the
creepy, and
deal
then
with
when
it
that-
was.
and then the old lady kissed like Tom Cruise,
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Oh yeah.
and we were just like, what?
Are you okay, lady?
I feel
Yeah.
like she should have like come back or something, because she
I
kind
thought
of
she was
like,
going
yeah.
to.
yeah, and she kind of just
She
disappeared.
seemed important, like that she would come back at some other point and be like, oh, by the way, something dispenses knowledge or whatever, because that's kind of her shtick. But it seemed weird that after that, like, she never reappeared, and we don't even know if something happened to her.
Mhm.
There was also like no mention of her afterward either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just kind of
Yeah.
because especially well, again, that's a spoiler thing, but yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Do we have anything else to say before we get into spoilers?
Um.
Can't really think of
It's
anything.
a little bit hard to talk about it without.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Let's put it this way: if you want to see an interesting movie that does kind of make you think on like a moralistic standpoint, and also has an emphasis on like trying to figure out what's going on, this is definitely a great one to choose.
Mhm.
I think we'd all agree on that. So, if
And
you
it does not disappoint in the crime drama aspect.
No.
Right. so
And it ends on a high note. I'll just. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just
Happy.
put it that way.
well, we'll explain later. But basically, yes. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and see it.
Yeah.
And if you have seen it, hi.
Right. So with that in mind, we're going
This
to
is a
go into
spoiler
spoiler territory. So if you want to watch it without any spoilers at all, leave now. Have a nice day.
Yes.
If not, stay with us for a little bit longer.
Yes.
And
And
we'll
we are
see how
pretty
much
much going to
longer.
spoil like everything. So.
Yeah.
So, okay. Obviously, I think it was we all kind of guessed. Well, I guessed at least first off, and then okay. So I first guessed, and then I kind of went back on my guess, and then I like went back to the guess again later. But my original guess was that he was set up. Right.
Yeah.
We're like
It
he's gonna
felt
get.
like he was set up.
It was like he
Because
set
it
up.
didn't seem right otherwise.
Yeah, so it was interesting where it's like, oh, he's gonna get set up, and he got set up, but then like right when they got to where like there's this random dude, because that was the thing I thought like in the movie they were gonna actually reveal like, oh, why is this random dude like getting killed or whatever, and then right as they were actually getting into the hotel room, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is gonna be the dude who killed his son. I like called that before they show it, then I was like, huh, this is real. But then they like switched it where like that actually isn't what happened, and I was like, huh. So it was like one of those things where I was like, wait a minute. So it's like right as I was doubting myself that I thought that he was set up, then they revealed that he was set up, and I was like, oh shit, like what? So it was kind of clever in that regard.
It kind of like twisted your mind a bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the matter of like 2 to 5 minutes, it's just
Yeah.
like
Especially when you see him like pick up the photo and everything, and then he
Yeah.
calls him out and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, he's actually maybe.
maybe this is true. Maybe he
Yeah,
is
maybe
gonna
this
kill him.
is true. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It seems like, oh, he actually isn't set up. Because that's what I said earlier about how, like, what would actually drive you to kill someone, right?
Right.
It's like,
right.
that's a pretty good example, right? Like, a realistic example. So,
Yeah.
But,
As opposed to what was the one where he had to get? He was like he kept wanting like a specific amount of money.
Oh,
Payback, he wanted
Payback.
$70,000.
Yeah.
Instead
and
of like $100,000.
It's so
Yeah, as opposed to that guy who just wanted 70,000 K and kept killing people for no obvious reason.
So dumb.
Yeah, but okay. So, but for the setup though, I thought that the person who was setting him up was like the dude who came in from like the attorney general or whatever, right?
Whitner,
Yeah.
the bearded guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought it would be him,
So, because he seemed like the villain kind of guy, right?
or at least someone who was skeptical, and they didn't seem to like each other.
Right,
you
and
know?
then
Yeah.
again, his whole
That
premise
makes
at
sense.
first was to he basically said that like he was going to be kind of taking over, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, he planted this to show that like, well, no, what was it? He said that like early on in the film, he said, oh, well, this system is perfect, but it's human, right?
Yeah.
So I
Right.
felt like he was going to try to prove there was a flaw or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Whereas it seemed like, because again, there was this kind of brings up or the very end of it where Tom Cruise actually is confronting the person who set him up, and he kind of says
Yeah.
like, either you go through with it and then you personally are ruined, or you don't, in which case the system is ruined, right? That would be the
Right.
perfect setup if Whittaker did set him up for his point of view. You know what I mean? So it's like it totally
Yeah.
made sense that he was the one who set him up, but he wasn't.
Mhm.
So it was interesting that way. How, so that was a really interesting kind of dynamic, because oftentimes when like they do like, oh, you think this guy's the villain, but it's actually this guy, right? It often feels that like
it was forced almost.
Well, it's either it feels like one of them is forced, and it depends which one of them being forced kind of depends on the thing. Sometimes it feels like the fake villain is forced, sometimes it feels like the real villain is forced,
Right.
But there's something where it's like one of the two of them doesn't seem to work, right?
Yeah.
But this, I think both of them work, and the thing is, at first I was like kind of nearing the end, I was like, I don't see how the old guy, I'm like, I don't get how this works. Like, how is what's the old guy's motive or whatever, right? But I feel like they did kind of like tie it together kind of just enough where it makes sense that that's why things happen the way they did.
Especially after they dropped the fact like early on when with the old lady person, when she mentioned that Agatha was like the strongest one and stuff, and then you learn Anne Lively was her mom and everything, and the reason that he killed her was to
keep Agatha with them, basically.
I guess the only other thing that I can think of being a little off is like, it seems that maybe a little bit too far to immediately jump to murdering Anne Lively. A little. I
thought
know.
that wouldn't it also work to just be like, pay her off or something?
Or just like, I don't know. Well, again, because the whole idea is that she was supposed to be like a drug addict who like recovered, right?
Right.
So couldn't you just like make up some story about how like, oh, you actually didn't recover, you're still an addict, so I'm gonna throw you in jail, right? Like, couldn't you do that? I don't know. I mean, it still works overall. Like, I think there's definitely worse. There even okay. Put it this way. My least favorite Black Mirror episode also involves someone basically killing someone to further their own agenda, and that feels way more forced than this did. So, where you're actually watching it and you're like, why the hell did you kill this person? That was a terrible idea. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is not quite as bad. It's just a little bit iffy, but it's definitely it works as a story. So, that's one thing. I was looking up stuff on Wikipedia prior to this, and I was seeing that apparently like a bunch of people like don't like the ending, and the reason is apparently they say it's like it's too happy and it feels like there's too much of a shift from the rest of the movie. And the thing that they point to is that as like counter evidence or whatever is that when Tom Cruise was it John something? I don't know. Anyway,
Anderson.
Yeah. Okay. That really bothered me. I'm like, why isn't he just Anderson? Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
why don't you just go with Anderson? It's easier.
I heard the T, and I was like, what?
For Tom Cruise, I don't know. But anyway,
just Tom Cruise. It's fine.
But how like because he gets like arrested or whatever, and he's put in the thingy, right? And when he's put into the thingy, the dude who's like in charge of the prison or whatever says like your life flashes before your eyes and it like your wildest dreams come true or something. So people say like, oh, all of that ending was actually a dream that he's having because this is what he wants to happen or something.
So it's kind of like the Inception ending argument then.
Yeah,
almost.
But at the same time there's like counter arguments where it's like, well, if he's dreaming for literally what anything he wants, why doesn't he just like bring his son back?
Have his son home.
Yeah, so it's kind of
like,
So it's kind of I don't know. Like I personally I didn't mind the ending. I thought it was.
I wasn't bothered by it either.
I think it's fine. I don't think it's amazing, but I think again the reveal and also how things wrap up is interesting, and I think it works. So I don't think that's like
especially the scene that I like cinematography wise was when they showed like the scene was projected on the screen and everyone who was like asking for his autograph and everything just slowly turned and you can see their expressions change and everything.
Oh, yeah, that was really good.
I really liked how they did that scene.
Yeah, that was well done, and I like how I like how like the precogs were like kind of interspersed, like saying the dialogue like beforehand or whatever. Yeah. I like how they're good at they do that a few times, and it always like how they shoot it is really good with kind of like atmospheric tension, I guess.
Yeah.
So that works in that regard. What was I gonna add? There was something about one of the Oh, okay. What I was gonna say about the woman, the old lady, was that because she says that like she and the old guy are the two people who started this program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's when I thought she was gonna come back into this when he gets busted or whatever.
Right.
I thought she was
But-
gonna come into this
yeah.
somehow as to like either be a co-conspirator somehow or be like, you know, the good cop or whatever to his bad cop. You know what I mean? I thought there was gonna
Right.
be
Be
some
like, I
sort
told
of,
you so.
yeah, some
Yeah.
more connection in that regard of the ending. So that was kind of weird that didn't plan out. I mean, again, I guess it doesn't really matter.
And we
but I
never
don't know.
really know what happened to her either.
Yeah.
Did she just like become a recluse because of like the fact that her house is guarded by like weird plants and stuff, and it seems like she hasn't seen anyone in a really long time? Did she just put herself in self-exile or something?
Okay.
Maybe, but
It would have been nice to see her come back because she seemed like, even though she was a little bit weird with that like one kiss thing, she seemed like an interesting character at the
Yeah.
very least.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like a mad scientist, but she still kind of has
A nice mad scientist.
yeah. She has like, you know, she still has some empathy because the whole reason she wanted to do this was to help the precogs at first, and she kind of explains that a lot better, but
Yeah.
you see that she wanted to help them, but something bad came out of it, and I guess maybe she was trying to make something good out of it, but in the end it still turned out bad anyway.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
another
Nice
aspect of it where like they kind of again this is like a more of a background kind of element, but it's like, you know, there's these humans who you're forcing to watch murders over and over and over again and just have them sit in a pool and do nothing. You know what I mean? It's like that's it's kind of back to
Yeah.
the empathy kind of thing of like, you know, just using people as a tool instead of actually like, you know, they're people, right?
It's almost like also an argument of which is the lesser evil, or I guess which one is the more noble sacrifice. Like, do you put all of these potential murderers in jail, or do you torture these people for the rest of their lives,
Right.
or do you let them go and just go about the system as it was? And while it is very flawed, you can still work to make it better and
Yeah.
like not torture people against their will, because like police officers, they're supposed to take up the badge of their own will, and they go and they catch people and they like they risk their lives of their own accord. These three people do not have any choice because like they're pretty much captured and put into this like pool in like a semi catatonic state, and they can't do anything except watch these things over and over again. So then I just realized when you were talking about that the people who were doing this are also in the wrong in that way with like three people, even though they think maybe, oh yeah, we'll just sacrifice these three people so that we can keep everyone else safe. But is that also like the best thing to do?
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like
And you even see, like, when Agatha comes out of the pool and stuff, she can't even walk properly because of how, like, degenerated her muscles must be and everything.
Yeah.
she's probably fucked up on a lot of drugs or something. Yeah.
It was really sad to watch her.
It's kind of this is like a specific example of an idea that's been like played before. I mean, it's a fairly common sort of like dystopian idea where it's kind of like, you know, how many, like, you know, how much freedom and empathy are you supposed to sacrifice for safety, right? Like another example that like I've seen more recently is with the Injustice like video games, which is basically the idea that like basically Superman like this is like way oversimplifying it, but Superman basically because he used to kind of have like an honor code, right? But basically like because of stuff that happens, that honor code like goes away, and he basically becomes a dictator in a sense of like, you know, you must be safe, you know what I mean, in terms of
You
like
must be safe.
well, yeah, so in terms of the people, so it's like, you know, he's, for example, there's a whole thing about how Batman doesn't kill anybody, right?
Yeah.
And there's a thing about that where it's like, well, if he doesn't kill people, like if he doesn't kill the Joker, well then the Joker will just like keep doing stuff, right? Because he's still alive. So there's a whole idea where it's like, you know, do you just kill people who are causing problems, or do you actually, you know, think they can have a chance to, you know, fix themselves and turn themselves around, you know? And it also gets. Is this even ignoring the whole thing about like you could have the wrong person, right? They could be an innocent person. So I don't know. It's one of those things that's like really interesting to think about, and how it's because it's a really specific example of this kind of thing, and how it's played in terms of the roles of characters. So that's kind of one thing that makes it stand out more, even though this sort of theming is a bit more common.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's so. I guess I don't know. There are a few kind of plot oddities and like characters like why didn't this character do this? But I think overall it still works really well, and the overall premise and just like what happens is interesting enough to, for me to still really like this. So, but I don't know. I think that's.
I definitely liked it much more than I thought I would.
Yeah, it was. I have to go into like crime dramas with like very low expectations after what happened with Sleepers. So this definitely did a lot better than I thought it would. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. Is there anything else to say about it?
There was a dog.
There
was one dog. Yeah.
There was. Oh yeah, there was. But wasn't it like a really like big one that like the purpose was like to scare somebody or something?
Yeah.
So.
But there was still a dog.
Yeah.
What if that was Sora?
She would be afraid.
It's like jump up. She'd like.
She wouldn't have even been there. Probably.
She'd like be. Like the camera would like pan over to the chain link fence, and Sora would just be like staring at it out of the corner of her eye, like from behind a plant. It's like I don't want to go.
I don't want to be scary. That dog is scary. Everyone else is scary.
I want to stay here with my plant.
So,
yeah.
Like, don't fight. That's not nice.
That's not nice. No.
Well, so the next movie on like the super general premise is kind of similar.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
In everything else, it's completely different, but
especially the tone.
The tone is completely different, so that'll be something.
But it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I saw this before. I don't remember.
Wait, do you remember what movie this is?
It's there's a color involved.
Color.
It's also a sequel.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So that should be at least entertaining. And then yeah, but so this is a good one.
Yeah.
And there you go. Hooray. All right.
Speaking of Sora, we haven't had a Sora treatment in a very long time.
No, we haven't.
It's very nice.
What was the last one? Was it Shakespeare in Love?
I think it was.
I think it was Shakespeare.
That was like 3.5 years ago.
Whew! Let's not jinx it.
Great sign.
Oh.
I mean, I think the rest of this year should be okay. So
this year should be fine.
Yeah.
This year has been pretty damn good.
Yeah. Actually.
Because even like the not good for this year has still been like not
at least
that
okay.
At least okay. Yeah. Let me.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm all over the place. What has even come out this last year?
Snow Dogs, Return to Neverland,
Yeah.
Ice Age, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah, most of these, again, all of these have
Spider-Man.
at least been like, at least kind of average.
Yeah.
Okay, Snow Dogs is less than average, but again, it wasn't even like that bad, right?
It wasn't like it wasn't bad.
It was just kind of
It
dumb.
wasn't Dumb and Dumber level.
No, it was just kind of
Yeah.
stupid. So,
Yeah.
and the stuff
Return to Neverland was a sequel to a Disney movie, so what are you going to expect from it?
yeah, and then it's just so it's interesting, kind of, and looking forward. Well, okay, looking forward, one of them is dumb.
Mm.
The other one, there's another one that I am potentially worried about being just like totally not the kind of movie that I want to see. So,
Oh, that'll be your last one commentating
yeah,
before we get to
number
mine.
100. Oh man, we're coming up very soon.
Number 101.
The best
You guys are gonna get another story from me.
Yay!
Bye.
And
Story time.
yep, we get more of the franchises. So
Yeah.
we'll see. So yeah, it's actually surprising. This year's been pretty damn good. So
I can't wait until next year for one particular movie that I see.
this one,
Yeah, that one. That's,
I
I
am
can't.
Is that the only?
2003. There's some split. There's a few that I
Oh,
want to
there's
see.
another franchise that'll be coming up again too.
Oh yeah,
They'll be starting up.
I am okay. 2003 has one movie I'm really worried about.
Oh yeah.
This one.
Oh right.
This is like from what I saw. This has potential to be worse than Dumb and Dumber.
Oh God.
I'm not looking forward to
Because
that.
it's like it's also that
Wait.
kind of movie, but it looks even worse.
Mm.
So yeah. Anyway, we've been recording this
We
for
should
way
stop.
too long. This
Hi,
is like
guys.
30 minutes. Well, it's over 30 minutes. Especially. Well, yeah. Oh, jeez. Okay. Anyway, bye.
Bye.